Tel Staffing and HR, in conjunction with PatriotTV.live, bring you Play Harder Radio, the premier patriotic sports and BS talk show from America's Gulf Coast. Things that matter in the world of sports and things that don't matter to anyone. It's just Faja's opinion. Where the F-bomb is allowed but frowned upon. This is Play Harder Radio. And now, your host, James Grant.
Woo! All right, welcome back to another week of Play Harder Radio, the former sports talk show
That's
that
right.
politics ruined and drove me to talking about politics because I'm in a much better mood when I'm thinking about what I want to fight about in politics than I am when I'm thinking about sports. Actually, that's true now.
Yes, it is. Yes.
You know? But joining us this week is going to be Jordan Karr. We'll get to her in just a second. She is running for the Florida House District 2 seat here in Escambia County, Florida. And I wanted to have her on here so that she could get her views out and her platform out. And then she can share this to, garner votes for the rest of the week.
That would be awesome.
Right?
That's right.
I agree. I can't see the show on my page.
Okay, well, I'm not sure why, but
Hang on, let me look. There it is.
Okay.
It's live.
So I just want to, I want you to remind me, what did you want me to play first?
It's in the email, and it says show start. Start.
It says show. Oh, well,
right
see,
when I said I'm
even,
sending you the email
I hadn't
to
even
start
opened.
the show with, and then you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hadn't even
You get where I'm coming from.
opened that one yet. I was opening the other ones. And
This
getting them
is
prepared.
not a democracy, this show. This is a dictatorship.
Yeah, it is. It's become one. Okay, so let me see what a fine video you have sent here. I'm going to drop that in.
Did somebody already comment on this one? Oh, it's not. There it is. Looks like it's way behind.
Is it?
Well, do you have that video ready?
Well, I just...
Oh, my Lord.
Well, it's
You're
funny.
embarrassing me
No,
in front
I know.
of
I'm embarrassing.
Jordan.
I dropped one over and then I proceeded to look and go over at the screen, and then it's like, okay, I've already got one dropped over there. Which one is it? So I'm going to have to do this again. It's that one now.
I'm so bad I can't even find the stinking.
Replace
there it
the
is.
file in
There's
the
the video.
destination. Yes, okay. I'm replacing that one. And I'm going to put that into here. And I'm going to drop it here.
Todd.
And yeah, I know.
God.
I'm saying all of this out loud. Here we
You know
go.
what, Jordan, how are you?
I've seen this one before. You can unmute your mic and join the chaos here, Jordan.
Y'all are cracking me up.
God, I hope so because I'm getting mad. You know what? Did you hear the open, Jordan, where it said the F-bomb is allowed but frowned upon?
Yeah.
Well, he's pushing me already. You're like,
Well,
I don't
y'all
know.
have
She's
great
like, right now,
chemistry.
she's like, I don't know if I want to be associated.
No.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well. How was your day?
It was good. It was pouring this morning. My dogs are in the room because if I let them out, they're going to just be barking like crazy, and I don't want that on camera.
Right.
You know,
so
if you've got dogs in the room, Jordan, you're going to have to show them to us at some point, okay? Because
maybe toward the end.
okay. Okay, so here's this clip. This is the lady, right?
Okay, so
Okay.
anyway, so this is how we were going to start the show right after the open.
Okay.
Go.
Go. And
We're fed up with Liz Cheney.
Liz, you're fired. Get out of here.
Well, that was the highlight of my week so far.
the Liz Cheney didn't get in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Were you following that like I was, Jordan?
Yes, of course.
And also, so that one, and then 2 weeks ago, last Tuesday night was such a letdown because this week we were we were sending Liz Cheney on the road down the road, and 2 weeks ago we were all about Kerry Lake. At least I was in Arizona.
Yep. I definitely was following that one.
And I know you were because you evidently watched the same, or at least you tweeted about it, the same Charlie Kirk Turning Point USA rally in Arizona that Governor DeSantis was speaking at, was the feature speaker at, where she brought up the BDE.
Yes.
I was like, Carrie, really?
I know. Well, in politics today, you got to say something that's controversial.
Right.
But I love how she drew it to DeSantis. She tied his name in there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the only one that with the same BDE or brings BDE to or whatever. And I'll let you guys. We're not going to say it. The big and energy. I can give you those.
Yeah.
So, just for everybody out there, Jordan is running for the Florida State House District 2 seat, right?
Yes.
And the incumbent is Alexandre.
Yes.
He's in the seat now. And also your other opponent is Greg Litton.
Yes.
And Jordan and I met at so I'm really I really want to know how I can fight, for us, for America, for the United States.
And a lot of people want to know the same thing.
And so I came across Dan Sullivan, the precinctstrategy.com guy.
Yes.
And got fired up about that. And then I met Jordan at the first Escambia County GOP Executive Committee meeting. And then and then we saw each other again at the second meeting, and then I went to a candidates forum out on Pensacola Beach with Alex, Jordan, and Greg, and so we know a little bit about each other. I like Jordan's message, what she's bringing to the table at that candidates forum. Just to give you, and after I kind of get you introed here. We'll talk about a couple of national topics, and then we'll get into you and your platform. Does that sound all right?
Yep, sounds good.
And so I'm sitting in the back of the church. It was at the Pensacola Beach Church, and they're all up there, and they're asking a question about 5G. The question, I think, was more about 5G towers and the aesthetics of it in your neighborhood, right?
Right, that was the question.
And so whenever I hear 5G, and I'm like and I'm like Jordan. I'm sitting in the back of the church, and I'm going, Jordan, please answer this question the way I would. Please say what I would say. I'm channeling you right now. I'm channeling me to you right now. And she answered that question with the dangers that I see. One of the things I don't like about it, or it has very nefarious its uses, and it's a health risk to everybody. And she pretty much covered that topic, and I'm like, okay, this is my girl.
Yep.
So
yeah, because it went beyond the aesthetics. I mean, 5G is dangerous, and the fact that they're putting this up, and we have no say in where they're putting this up, but they're in our, in front of our homes where our children are, and the frequency capacity that it reaches people. These are underlying, maybe unseen issues, but they're very serious issues, and they impact our health.
It's manipulative. It's manipulative as well.
Yep.
So we were on the same page when she said that. I knew she was a great candidate. I knew before, but that was just
it just solidified it for you.
But so we'll talk about a few things, and then we'll get into you.
Okay.
Liz Cheney, how awesome was that?
Yeah, I think that was amazing. It just goes to show that we, the people across the country, are sick of the same politics, the old Republican Party. We want America First candidates, and we want representatives that are going to listen to the people. Which is why you see so many grassroots candidates now putting their name out there and saying, "I'm going to run because I don't feel like I'm being represented."
Yeah.
So I think that Carrie Lake, I mean, look at the wins across the country that we've had, and the Trump endorsed candidates that are winning. And it goes to show that, even with messaging in the media saying that Trump is done, he's over with, we are emboldened now to take our country back.
Yeah, what's so funny about the Liz Cheney deal is she was on NBC the next morning with, I can't remember, I tweeted about it because I'm like, shilling for. She was on NBC, the Today Show, the very next morning, first thing, saying how the fight's not over for her. And even though I just got pounded by 37 points, people are still behind me. And I'm like, who are those people that are behind you?
Yeah. Well, they're the Democrats.
Yeah. The Democrats that hated her and her husband or dad.
Yeah.
6 months ago. Or let's see, 8 months ago, before the January 6th committee, before she became, was speaking out on that. It's just, it's mind-boggling. And then in her concession speech, she had the nerve to compare herself to Abraham Lincoln.
I read about it. I didn't listen. I try not, people that I can't stand, I try not to listen to, but I did read about that, and she lives in an alternate universe, I think. So
also, she doesn't live in. I never realized. I thought they had a ranch there. She doesn't live in Wyoming.
Wow.
She's from New Jersey or something. That's just, how do you represent us? How do you represent the constituents?
Yeah, well, she's not the only one. I thought Maxine Waters in California, right? I don't think she lives in the district she represents.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I don't think Mitt Romney lives in Utah, or maybe he does now.
Yeah.
But, because he was governor of Massachusetts, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But, you bring up a good point. That is something that I've talked with voters about, is our representatives. It used to be that they lived where they represented. And now it seems they all live in D.C. and they come here occasionally.
Yeah, that's
they go back to their district that they represent occasionally, and that's part of the problem, is you get sucked into this DC world and you forget why you're there in the first place.
Right. There's something. You need people. Most people are professional politicians in DC, and that's the problem.
So yeah, you talking about how the Democrats have embraced her after being against her. I think people are waking up to the fact that it's not just the left, that, we don't have, enemies on the left only. We have people in the Republican Party that are just as deep state as those on the left. That's why you see so many people now not just voting down the party line. They're actually looking at candidates and saying, okay, which candidate represents my values and my beliefs?
Right. And
that is why there's so many America First candidates winning.
Well, you know what? I believe I'm correct in this. Unless it's a open primary or the idiocy like Alaska has going on now with the top four.
I know.
You have you have a Republican governor, senators, and I'm not sure about the one House seat there. I think it is red in Alaska. But you vote in this stupid. How did they? The top four candidates from the primary move on to the general election.
Yeah, and I know Project Veritas just did an expose on that and how it was intentional. And I know Sarah Palin has spoken out against that, but thankfully she's still in, regardless of their voting system.
Right.
And I actually read that they might have a special election for the one seat that is vacant right now, and it's not decided yet if she'll be able to be up for that one.
The interesting thing about that is the special election was happening Tuesday for that seat. He passed away. I can't
Right.
remember his name. And the Democrat was leading the special election, but was getting blown out in the primary for the permanent seat, for the 2-year seat.
Right.
That's so weird. And maybe that's just counting, but like the first, I think his guy's name is Nick something, had 30-some thousand votes,
For
and the other,
Gosh or whatever.
maybe that was, I don't remember what that was.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll have to go back and read it. I was following, I follow Sarah's candidacy, and so I know she's been posting about it.
Is she? I'm positive she's America First. She has Trump's endorsement as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she.
And I think that goes to show that, even representatives and candidates, they can change their, she was with McCain at one point, and now, she's America First. So
Right.
it goes to show that, we're forgiving people, and a lot of us are just blind for so long, right? Like, we vote down party lines. I mean, in the 2016, I think, presidential primary, I voted for Marco Rubio, and I was disappointed that Trump endorsed him, but he's the Republican on the ticket. So,
well, we have to. If it's the Republican
it goes to show
on the
candidates.
yeah, when it comes down to the general, we have to vote down the ticket,
right?
Because there's no. When I was young, when my dad was first explaining Republican and Democrat to me, it was the simple. He goes, generally. This is how he worked. It was kind of biblical. The Democrats give you fish, and the Republicans teach you how to fish. So you teach you how to support, teach you how to be successful. The Democrats just want to give you, it's the welfare society. But
applying that same logic to Sarah Palin, I'm hoping that Marco Rubio, he voted for red flag laws. I'm hoping now he understands that Floridians were very disappointed in a lot of his stances, and he does have Trump's endorsement. And so hopefully he does right by we the people in Florida, and he, puts America first and puts our, what we care about here in Florida, he puts that as a priority.
I would hope so. I haven't been a fan of his for a while. For things like
I said, I voted for him in the primary, but I think a lot of Floridians have been disappointed, and hopefully he'll do right by us. We are forgiving people. Most conservatives are religious, and we do believe in redemption.
Right.
And so we're forgiving people, but we want to know that we are being represented by the people we vote to represent us.
Exactly. That's rare that we get the representation that was promised.
Right.
On Rubio, I saw that it was a Fox News story that said Val Demings was ahead of him in the polls.
I don't pay attention to the polls, but I hope that especially the mainstream media, I don't know who's funding, their polling. But if she is ahead of him in the polls, I would be shocked.
So would I.
I mean, didn't they say the same thing about Gillum when he ran against Ron DeSantis? And
I don't recall that, but probably. Well, Scott Pressler has done such a great job of registering voters.
Right.
We're over 200,000 up. This is the first time ever in Florida that the Republicans have outnumbered the Democrats in voter registration.
Yeah. And here in Escambia County, we have people with the Republican Party that are going out and registering voters. So I think, the tide's turning. People are realizing that there are things that we can do individually to make sure that our voice is heard and that our vote counts. And that's getting out in the community and educating people.
Right. Exactly.
And I also think because we have an amazing governor, people are drawn to Florida, and, they're drawn to the policies, that Florida has because we have such an amazing governor. And they've realized that they can do better and they can have better by joining the Republican Party. We're not a perfect party, but we are about securing the rights of individuals.
Did you see where somebody edited a video of DeSantis it was about the Trump raid, and they edited, year or 2-year-old video of DeSantis saying, "No, you have it wrong. They were doing their job. They were doing the right thing." But it was completely, it was horrible. I mean, if people saw that and believed it, and then Hannity came out and said
that.
This was totally edited. It was from a couple years ago, spliced in, ridiculous.
Yeah.
They have no problem lying at any, anything that suits their needs.
Yeah. Well, and that's why it's so important that people critically think, you don't just blindly follow a candidate or representative. I had somebody tell me, kind of imply that it's not right to question our governor. And I said, no, that's not true. It's an obligation for we, the people, to question our representatives, to critique them and make sure that they know where we stand on certain issues. It's necessary in order to have representative government. The representatives need to understand what values we have, what we care about, what legislation we want passed. And so, I think that people are waking up to the fact that we can't just be blindly following people for so long. And I think a lot of that is due to President Trump, with his, and I was just talking to some voters today about this, with his Operation Warp Speed and the vaccines. I was disappointed, obviously, because the reason I got out of the military and was discharged was over the vaccine mandates. But I also think that was intentional. I think that President Trump was showing people, don't just listen to me, do some thinking for yourselves, figure out if this is what's best for you and your health and your family, and actually critically think. Don't just follow somebody because you like them or you like what they represent. Actually, vote with your mind and your conscience and look at our policies, look at what we represent. And so I'm grateful that we have, representation in President Trump like that. I don't always have to agree with everything he does or everything he says,
Which
but
we
he is
don't,
the best
and
candidate.
we don't mind saying so.
Right. But he is the best candidate. And I absolutely do think that he has awakened a lot of people and a lot of voters to what has been going on for so long with candidates and representatives giving you lip service, saying that they're going to do one thing and then they do the opposite, and showing people that we need to actually vet candidates, critically think, and, get involved in the election process.
There's a lot of people. I saw a Megyn Kelly clip today and she said that she feels like there's a lot of never Trumpers coming around because of Trump's consistency with his message and the absolute dumpster fire that the current administration is.
Yep.
So I think that's it's really, but I'll tell you that the media is just, some people, like there's a guy I played tennis with, and I played tennis yesterday afternoon with him, and he says he's a moderate. I don't really consider him that. He was a sports writer. I think he's a little farther left, but he'll be reasonable, and we talk and we chat and stuff. But he asked me if I was at the Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert luncheon at Lillo's on Monday, and I go, yeah, I was, and he goes, man, she's just crazy. That chick is crazy. And I'm like, I didn't even answer. I just was kind of like, or whatever, because I don't want to have that fight. You can't have that fight, really, with people that just listen to the mainstream media, because she's been slandered just like Trump has, and Matt Gaetz with the with the Ted Cruz stuff and this and that. And if you did you get there late to the luncheon?
I wasn't at the luncheon. I went to the evening rally that they had.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to talk to Lauren because my sister is stationed in Colorado, and
cool.
I was stationed in Colorado before moving here.
You can't look at the cover of her. I thought that was a picture of you guys that you were behind Lillo's. I thought that's where that picture was. So cool.
Yes, it was. Yes.
I'm glad you got there, but you can't look at that picture of her on the cover of her book. And of course, they can make everything up to be whatever. But you see the picture of her on the cover of her book with her husband and her 4 boys. She's the mother of 4. They're not real young now. They look older than I thought she would have. But, I mean, it's a beautiful family. And
Right.
it's just disgusting, the stuff that people try to pull off in the media.
Right. And they're okay with, slandering her. But then you look at the career politicians, the Pelosi's, that have been making money off of, policies that are oppressive to we the people, and they're fine with voting those people in continuously, and them getting away with stealing, so many tax dollars from we the people and giving our tax dollars to our adversaries, our oil to our adversaries. They're okay with that.
Right.
But God forbid there's a God-fearing woman who's a constitutionalist, and just wants to make a living for her and her family. God forbid, she gets in a position to where she can represent the people who are just as pissed off as, the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly. She's made a voice for herself, and she's stood out. She's attractive. She's vivacious. She's magnetic. She speaks well. You can feel she speaks from the heart, and they just can't have that opposing them.
Yeah.
Just a couple other things, and then we'll get to you, all about you. Moms for Liberty. Did you hear the? Are you familiar with? Oh, why am I drawing a blank? Tiffany Justice.
Sounds familiar. And I have a friend that is with Moms for Liberty.
Oh, really?
But we don't have a section here in the Escambia County. I think the closest one to us is like near Destin.
Yeah, you're right about that. I think Fort Walton. It's actually over in maybe Destin, maybe Fort Walton. But yeah, close. Is your friend here in Escambia, or is she over there?
No, she's actually in Jacksonville. She's running for Congress over there.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, her husband is active duty Navy, who's also suing the government. So she's, like me, pissed off with what's going on in our country and doing something about it.
Tiffany was on the show a couple months ago on here and on Play Harder Radio, and she put a voicemail. She put it out on Twitter today, where somebody in the whole movie. She put the whole thing on there. And I was going to play it, but I'm like, nah, I don't want to play it. But it was somebody saying, I hope you get raped by blah, 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 you disgusting C word.
Maybe I think I remember, hearing about this.
Yeah, the party of love and inclusion, right?
Right. Well, Dr. McCullough talks about how, everything happening through 2020, it's resulted in mass psychosis. Like, people aren't thinking, they're just regurgitating things that they hear. I talk about this all the time in the forums and debates, but we really are going through a spiritual war in our country. And there's definitely a distinction between, good and evil. And these people that are saying those types of things, look at it as like, that's the devil. Like, the devil is alive in our country. We, the people, have to, it's a spiritual war. Like, I'm Christian. So, and I actually have, I have friends that are Jewish, but we all agree that there's a spiritual war going on in our country, and we have to push back, and we have to bring God back to the center of our country.
We have to, speaking of, the devil is out there, and I was going to say alive and well, unfortunately. But I saw another thing today. They have synthetic meat that tastes like human meat. Human. Like a person. I don't even know how to freaking say that without feeling guilty.
Wait, what?
They have a synthetic meat that tastes like human, like it's
flesh?
Human flesh.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, flesh. And somebody, I retweeted that today, and somebody goes, and she goes, I don't remember if it was a man or woman, but they go, how do they know what human flesh tastes like?
Yep.
That's
my
a pretty
thought as well.
sobering, sickening, disgusting thought.
Yep.
And I hate to use the word, using the word evil is so, I don't know, cliche, and it's evil, oh, it's evil, oh, it's evil. But you know what? It's evil.
Yeah.
The stuff that's going on is evil.
And I think, we live in a culture where we've been like desensitized to what evil means. I mean, you have video games that, people can play all the time that are very similar to reality and war. And so I think when you say, oh, the devil's alive, the devil's here, like people are, not everyone, but I think that people are desensitized to that and they don't think about like the larger impact of that and what that actually means. And if you can think of something despicable and disgusting, that there's evil behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. But Tiffany's getting those kind of message, and Moms for Liberty is one of the most impressive groups out there. They're 85,000 strong when she was on the show and making moves in school boards and like you said, your friend's running for Congress over there. How does she looking over there?
She's running against the incumbent who has a lot of political action committee donations going into his campaign as well. And it's been very interesting. I think I'm running on somewhat of a controversial platform and she's doing the same. But I do think that we're gaining a lot of traction with our platform because we're authentic and we're speaking from our hearts. We're speaking from a place of being pissed off and fed up with not having representation. And so I think, we'll let the voters decide. And I think she's gaining some good traction. We'll see.
Good. And you're speaking abject truth, too, because there's nothing that you're standing for that can be disputed. You tweeted that IRS training video.
Yes.
This week.
Yeah, I don't know if that was facetious or what.
I know. I was going to say, is that a comedy or?
But I mean, you look at 87,000 new job openings in the IRS, and they want to arm these guys. And if this is the video that they're using to recruit people, thank God conservatives, we love our guns because I wouldn't feel safe with that.
The guy in the wheel. I mean, the guy in the wheelchair running somebody down and then holding them at gunpoint. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
The Border Patrol is forbidden from using lethal force, but it's a job requirement to be able to deal with using lethal force for the IRS. Make some sense of that. I
know. It just makes me think like it's a front for something else. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. What
that means.
Exactly. And I'm sorry you also missed Jim Jordan on Saturday. With Matt Gaetz.
I know. I wanted to meet him. I think I will be at the one with Representative Massey because Massey staffers are actually very much involved in communicating with some of the military members that are still fighting in the service. And so he's been amazing. Like his whole staff has been amazing in supporting the military members. So
awesome. Last thing before we get into you, and it's one of the basis of your platform, but the CDC has come out and said, they got the whole COVID thing wrong. And now we have a quote, there remains no FDA-approved COVID vaccine that is actually available in the United States, Pfizer acknowledged in quiet filings to the CDC, and that they would never produce the FDA-approved version that was authorized last August of 2021.
Yep. And, for the audience that doesn't know, I am in a lawsuit against the Department of Defense over the COVID vaccine mandates. And the Department of Defense is trying to trick service members yet again with a bait and switch, claiming that they have the Comirnaty FDA-approved vaccine. And thankfully, we have some critical thinkers in the military that have done the research. They've called Pfizer, they've called the manufacturers, and found out that the Comirnaty vaccine that they're purported to, that the DoD is saying that they have is actually manufactured in France.
Beautiful.
And so they're telling service members that they have the FDA approved one now. So don't worry, guys. Now you can get your FDA approved vaccine that allegedly we had this whole time. But now we really have it. Oh, wait, actually, it's manufactured in France.
And we don't have it.
Right.
That's just, so let's get into you a little bit. Like I said, I met Jordan at the GOP executive committee meeting here, because I want to be a precinct committeeman is what I was trying to get to with that precinctstrategy.com.
Yes.
Because there was an opportunity, and Dan Sullivan, who is heading up that, if you will.
Or is it Schultz? I think it's Schultz, isn't it?
Is it Schultz? Okay, Schultz. Dan Schultz. Can you look that up, Todd? Precinctstrategy.com.
Sure.
But he was on War Room, and that really struck me. Because what struck me about the whole thing is that precinct, through this strategy of precinct committeeman, which he relates to the Minutemen back in the Revolutionary War era from Massachusetts, relates that precinct committeeman to the Minutemen. They actually in New Mexico, got rid of the machines, I believe, and went to straight paper ballots.
Looks like Dan Schultz.
Dan Schultz,
yeah.
Cool. As in a county in New Mexico, and that got me fired up. So one more meeting, which is September 12th here in Escambia County, then I can join and be on board, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and I think that right there, what you just talked about, is why so many people are getting involved. I think we've allowed the system to go the way it is for so long without us being actively involved in it.
Right.
And now we're realizing why it's so important for us to be active participants in government, citizen representation. And that is so important to get involved in these processes, especially at the local level. And as I've been going, in my campaign, I've realized a lot that it is the local level and it is the states that have the power, and we have to take power back. We've allowed the federal government to, put this facade on that it's the federal government that controls everything. And I think Governor DeSantis has done a great job in showing the rest of the country that it is the states that have power.
That was another thing that you brought up during that candidate forum, Meet the Candidates, but the 10th Amendment.
Right.
That the powers not specifically given to the federal government are
delegated to the school. It's reserved for we the people through the states.
Yep.
And so we have an obligation to nullify anything unconstitutional, anything unlawful that's being implemented from the federal government. And we need courageous representatives. We need people that are, that aren't going to stop at saying, oh, well, it's never been done before, so we can't do that. If it's never been done before, then we find a way. If we can't find a way, then we make a way.
Yeah, exactly. And, you said it best. Glenn Beck is one of the first people I heard say it, but getting involved at the local level, and people are like, well, I can't run for office, or I can't, what can I do? This precinct committee person, if you will, whatever, is something that every single one of us can do.
Yes.
And we have taken it for granted. We've taken our liberties for granted for too long by not being involved. And Plato said, what you risk by not getting involved is being ruled by the worst of you.
Yeah.
Which is what has happened, and it's why it's so infiltrated, and why there were so many leaks and backstabbers in the Trump administration.
Yeah. And I do understand, getting involved in campaigning. I didn't think that it was going to be as daunting as it has been. This is a state election.
Right.
But it is exhausting. And so I understand, especially people with families, children who are hesitant to get involved in politics. But it's so necessary. And for me, I view this as an extension of my service to this country, right? Like I swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, and I was a service member and as an officer. And that's a lifelong oath for me. And so this is an extension of that service. I really believe that we are at risk of losing this country. And I want to do something about it. And I can't just sit on the sidelines and watch things continue to happen as they have.
I agree. I believe we are at risk. However, I'm not a lot of people are like, the country's lost, it's done, it's over. We will win. I believe we will win.
Right, we have to fight for it. You can't just give up. You have to fight for it.
But you got to fight for it. So, Jordan's running for District 2, Florida State House. seat. And so family of veterans, 9 years as an Air
Yes.
Force intelligence officer.
Yes.
And as you can see, I wore a shirt in your honor tonight, an F-15 flag shirt, which is an Air
Awesome.
Force aircraft, not used by any
Yeah.
of the other services. I know what I'm doing. She's America First. She's election integrity, which I was about to get in a fight at that last meeting with people over
Yeah.
that.
I was too. Oh, I had to bite my tongue for so long, and I finally was able to talk.
Yeah, when you got up to talk and then you brought it up, and I'm like, it was hard for me to keep quiet. Medical freedom, no mandates, which is why you left the service. Pro-life, constitutional carry,
Yes.
national security and law enforcement, which we'll get to, and you'll have to help me with that. Quality education and teaching pro-American values,
Yes.
which we don't do in school anymore. We're teaching gender identity. We're spending all our time on gender identity.
Yes, well, I do. I commend Governor DeSantis for realizing that this is a huge issue and getting involved in our schools and pushing back and saying, if you're going to continue to push this ideology on our children, then we're not going to fund your schools.
Right.
You won't get funding from us.
I love it. I love it. And, we pulled out of the National Teachers Union deal. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the Florida Teachers Union, or I don't want to say Teachers Union, or Teachers Association pulled out of the National Teachers Association.
Yeah, I think I remember reading about that.
And did you hear in the event with Carrie Lake and Governor DeSantis, Carrie Lake talk about the two-pronged approach for students once they get to 10th grade?
I did not.
She said, I want to institute a two-pronged approach where you can either concentrate on on one side you'll be able to concentrate on going to college, and on the other side you'll be able to concentrate on going into a trade.
Yes, love that.
Which is just awesome, and it should be everywhere.
I love that. Yes, and I talk. I went to college here in the University of Florida. I had a scholarship both through ROTC and Bright Futures. But I talk about my education and how a lot of colleges, right, you're in a large classroom with hundreds of other students. And so it's not really quality education when you're in that type of environment. As you progress through college, your classes get smaller. But I talk about how I think we need to emphasize trade schools a lot more for a lot of the students who feel like maybe college isn't for them. And to be honest, I only went because I had a scholarship.
Right.
And I knew that I wanted to join the military. But I remember being 18, 19, 20 and I think I switched my major 3 times and going, what do I want to do with my life? So if I didn't have those scholarships, if I didn't know that I wanted to join the military, then I think trade school would have been a great option for me.
A lot of people that make a lot of money are in the trades.
Yep.
Without a college education.
Yep.
Tell me about your family. You come from a family of veterans.
Yes. So every single family member of mine has served. Well, my immediate family,
right.
To include, my grandparents, great grandparents. My mom is a retired senior NCO, Air Force senior NCO. And so my sister and I grew up with patriotic values, like from the get-go. My mom grew up very poor, and the way for her to escape her upbringing, her mother was an immigrant from Germany. And the way for her to escape, the welfare state in Massachusetts was to join the military. And it was such a blessing, which is why one of the reasons why my sister and I love the military so much. And it's been so heartbreaking, I think, for a lot of the patriotic service members who joined because of that sense of patriotism, that sense of, nationalism and wanting to give back to your country. It's been so heartbreaking to see how that's changed in the last couple of years, really the last decade, probably. And I have friends that are saying that they would not encourage their kids to join the military after going through, the critical race theory that's being pushed in the military, extremism, talks, stand down talks, and then the unlawful mandates. But my sister is a Space Force officer. My husband is a service member. So my dad was also in the Air Force. So it's, my whole family serves.
Your sister's in the Space Force?
Yes, she was the first group of deployed members to swear into the Space Force.
That's cool.
That's what
Yeah,
I want to know more about.
Yeah,
that.
me too. I want to hear more about that. Is she there by chance right now? Can we talk to her?
she's not. She's actually going through the same thing as I went through, right, with the vaccine mandates. She was a very, I think, top performing officer before these mandates happened. She was selected for a very competitive deployment that is not given out frequently to Space Force members. She was actually coined by General Milley. She gave that coin to her squadron commander when she got back. But she also filled an O5 billet as an O2, which is a big deal. Like, that's a lieutenant colonel billet that she's filling as at the time, first lieutenant, and then captain. And she got back and she said she basically said no to being discriminated against because she was unvaccinated, when the unvaccinated were required to wear masks, but the vaccinated were not. So she wasn't wearing a mask, and she got a letter of reprimand for that. So she went from being a top performer to now being basically like a piece of crap by the military standards.
Right.
And she's also suing the DoD in another lawsuit. And thankfully, she's protected right now because of the class-wide injunction for Air and Space Force members.
Nice. That's good. That's great to hear. So, 9 years. You served 9 years as a Air Force intelligence officer. And before you tell me about that, both with Jim, when Matt was with Matt Gates was with Jim Jordan, when he was with Lauren at Lillo's on Monday, they spoke about getting you guys reinstated and back paid.
Right.
Would you be reinstated?
So, and I've talked with Congressman Gates' team about this. I don't think the bill proposal goes far enough. There are a lot of members, myself included, who do not want to be reinstated into a corrupt chain of command, a corrupt organization, to the same chain of command that has gone 2 years abusing and coercing their authority on service members. I have testimony after testimony from service members of the abuse and the coercion that they have received from their chain of command. And so the answer right now is no, because I'm going to continue to fight for an investigation into the chain of command. We want leaders held accountable. We don't want to be reinstated into the organization, the same chain of command that is responsible for making us go through this, everything that we've been going through. I mean, the mental exhaustion that we've gone through, the emotional exhaustion. I have a friend who, her husband just got discharged last week and she has cancer. They have no way to pay for her cancer treatments. And she actually met with his commander and he could care less. And so, no, we don't want to be reinstated if the chain of command remains the same. We want people held accountable. We want an investigation. And the other thing is, and I've talked to Congressman Gates' team about this, is giving us back pay and giving us, reinstated into the same rank. Well, a lot of us have been passed over for promotion or missed promotions because of the adverse paperwork we've received. So, reinstating us back into the same rank, well, our peers will be 1, 2, 3 years ahead of us at this point. And we suffer because of the paperwork that we received and because of the courageous stance that we've taken to uphold our oath.
Yeah, you're not getting made whole just by being reinstated.
Trump just needs to clean house.
I do commend, these representatives, Congressman Gates, Jim Jordan, Representative Massey. I know that they are working to help us. I just hope that they hear the frustrations from us service members that are going through this and the service members that are still going through this, that we want accountability. That is what we want more than anything, accountability.
How long ago were you forced out?
May 1st.
This year?
Yes, so 3.5 months ago.
Right. Would you, if you could be, let's say if you could be made whole, I mean, there's too much, it's almost a no matter what, because that's a monumental task to be made whole and not be put back under a corrupt chain of command. Right.
I think, and this is me speaking, on behalf of myself, but I think the service members that I'm in contact with, most of us are Christians. And what we would want is accountability and an apology. I mean, we want an apology for everything that we've gone through, especially the enlisted, the junior enlisted service members. My heart breaks for them because as an officer, I hear testimony from them. They are so courageous to stand up against their officers and their superiors that are, just that outrank them, to have the conviction to say, no, I'm not going to listen to this unlawful order. There's a service member I'm in contact with in Japan. She was told that she has to fly back to the United States and be discharged because she wouldn't get vaccinated. And she refused to fly back. She said, I can't comply with this order because the premise is unlawful, since you're trying to force me out over an unlawful order. And so now they're trying to court-martial her overseas. But she refused to fly back to the United States because she said it's an unlawful order. And she has so much courage to do that.
Yes, she does. That's beyond, I mean, she's risking going to jail, going to prison for that, right?
Right. And I hope that these representatives, look out for her. She has representation. She's in contact with a lot of the service members who have gone through various boards and been retained. And so we're hoping that it works out for her. But our oath is to the Constitution. And so you have these service members that are actually living the oath that they took. And she's one of them. And I think that, she's going to be a courageous example for why people need to stand up and to say, we aren't going to comply with unlawful orders any longer.
Well, I love it. I feel for her, but it's really hard to do. That's
why, that's why this Band-Aid of being reinstated and giving us back pay, it's so much deeper than that. I mean, the mental exhaustion, it's not just service members, it's their entire families. I have spouses and their kids, reaching out to me all the time. I have mothers of service members reaching out to me all the time saying, there's a Marine, his whole life, he wanted to be a Marine, and he got discharged with an other than honorable. And his mom contacted me and said, he's not the same. He's heartbroken. This is what he wanted to do his entire life. And now he feels so betrayed. And he has a wife and a kid to support. These Band-Aid solutions of reinstatement and back pay, it cuts deeper than that. And I think an apology would go a long way.
That's good to hear. I'm glad to hear your side because you are actually living it and have the real perspective on it. So that's good to hear. You're America first.
Yes.
Which, that's obvious.
And I talk about how my loyalty is to the Constitution. My loyalty is not to a party. I am a conservative, but my loyalty is to the Constitution. It always has been and always will be.
I don't, with you on the show, I don't want to slam anybody, but a candidate got up in the executive committee meeting, not a candidate, somebody got up and talked in the executive committee meeting. I know when I say this, and said, well, I can't speak to the God stuff or the Constitution, but we did do this while I was in office. We kept masks out of Florida and vaccine mandates out of Florida. And I thought that whole statement of, well, I can't really speak to the God or the Constitution but this was just had to be destructive for that person.
Right. I mean, it's a typical political response. And I think that's what people are so frustrated with. We want God back in our country.
That was a Republican.
We want our Constitution. The litmus test for everything is it constitutional? If it's not constitutional, don't abide by it.
The person they're running against spoke before them. I don't know if it was right before them or not, but he said, I can promise you, if I am elected, you'll be getting a God-fearing, constitutional conservative. I can't remember the word he wanted to use about, and honor my oath to the Constitution as your representative. And then and then that person came up and said, well, I was just blown away that she would even say that. That just sounded like a stupid thing to say no matter what.
Yeah. Well, it's been an interesting experience for me because I'm seeing even within the Republican Party, there's a very clear, kind of divide, if you will. And it's not so impactful that it's like breaking up the Republican Party, but you definitely see a divide between the America First, the pissed off people, and those who are okay with the same old same. And so to me, I think that as a candidate, that's probably a safe answer. I don't know. I don't think, leaving God and Constitution out of things is as actually safe, but I understand that there's the typical candidate representative answer, the lip service, right?
Right.
And then there's the people who actually are convicted and speaking from their heart and going to tell you what they value and what they believe, regardless of if it gets them elected or not. And I think that's what people are looking for, is people want to know that they have a representative, that they have a candidate that is just like them.
Right. And that they'll
I'm not a politician. I'm a normal person, and I will tell you, like, the last 3 months have been exhausting. This was never, something that I had aspired to do. But when you feel called to do it and you feel like your country is being completely torn apart, you have to try.
And it is.
And I think that authenticity is what people are looking for. They're looking for somebody just like them to say, okay, I'm pissed off too. I don't know what to do, but I want to get behind this candidate because maybe they don't know what to do, but they're doing it. They're finding a way. And you talked about that, Jim, how you wanted to get involved. So you joined the precinct committeeman. There are so many ways to get involved. Defend Florida. That is a grassroots organization. And you look at Governor DeSantis' speech today on election integrity. That is because people in Florida, through Defend Florida, didn't stop at being told that there was no election fraud, right? They said, you know what? We are going to take matters into our own hands. We're going to go canvass our communities and see if there are people on the voter rolls that are still voting that should not be voting. And they did. And look at how that's paid off. It's been 2 years, but it has paid off, and it's going to continue to pay off.
I'm just now aware of it. I mean, I think I've heard you say it in the last couple of weeks or whatever, but I'm just recently aware of them, and that's sad for me.
Yes, Defend Our Union. If you go to Defend Our Union, every state, I believe, has a chapter. Defend Florida is one of them. And they have been doing amazing work. These are people like you and I that are just going out, knocking on doors, canvassing, their neighborhoods and saying, hey, does this person live here? Oh, no, they don't. And because of the work that they've done, nearly 20,000 voters were taken off the voter roll here in this county.
Wow. How many counties are in Florida?
I think there's 67.
Oh, is it that many?
So think about that.
Well, Governor DeSantis said that he's sending a notice to all 67 supervisors of elections that we will retain our 2020 election records. That is huge because law states that after 22 months, those election records can be deleted. And I was actually looking for a way to petition the court to save those records. And then he came out with that message today, and I was ecstatic because that means that we can continue to investigate fraud from 2020.
That's awesome. That's well. Did you? So this segued perfectly because election integrity was the next platform point. Your next platform point, and again, you and I. This was another because I was sitting there wanting to get up and yell at that meeting when the lady asked, and she goes, "I just want a vote of who thinks we still have an election integrity problem, or that 2020 was a problem, right?"
Right. She wanted an opinion, not an actual, stance from the Republican Executive Committee. She just wanted an opinion of the group.
And she got so much backlash, and somebody stood up and said, you know what, 2020 was 2020, and we just need to put that behind us and move on. And I wanted to jump up. When that guy said that, I'm like, no, we don't. No, we don't. 2020. Yep. And then you got up there when you got your chance to speak as a candidate and said what I wanted you to say again is we had election fraud in Florida. When you have machines, and you know this because from your career as an intelligence officer, you're susceptible and you're at risk.
Yep.
Do we need to go?
you bring up that point. I forgot to bring this up at that meeting. Is I just spoke with a woman whose son is going to jail in October because he was at January 6th. He was at the Capitol, and so this whole mindset of we need to move on from 2020. No, we have political prisoners in our country, and a lot of them are Floridians who are desperate for somebody to speak up for them and to do something about it. And so that is the motive. That is why we will not let 2020 go, because we have political prisoners that are being held unlawfully in our country.
In the United States.
Exactly. And so if we say we need to move on from 2020, we are telling those political prisoners we're giving up on them. And Americans don't give up on Americans.
I feel like I tweeted to every individual states, to every senator, every Republican senator this week, because somebody tweeted, while what happened to Trump was bad, what's happening to the people from January 6th is 1,000 times worse. And so my tweet was, I was copy and pasting. I had to do I don't remember how many states there were, but that Republicans are senators in. But I said, I don't hear you. You're not screaming loud enough. Because I don't hear anybody screaming about it.
Yeah.
I don't hear Republicans standing up and saying this is BS.
Yep. And you've had some political prisoners. I mean, they've committed suicide because they feel like all hope is lost. They feel like people aren't fighting for them. So yeah, we're not going to forget 2020. We have to, for their sake, we have to investigate 2020. And I understand that Florida had the best, elections that we've ever had. But even Governor DeSantis admitted today that they were not perfect. And if a state like Florida, that is a red state, has fraud, what does that tell you about the other states where it's rampant? And so if we can take our state and prove that there was fraud in Florida, then we can do that for the rest of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Kelly Bowling just messaged in the chat, said, Jordan, you're not normal. You're a warrior. And her message before that said, God bless you, Jordan. So I love seeing those kind of messages. I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're patriots. We're all patriots, and we're all looking to do something. And I mean, we have the power, and I think that's what people are realizing is we, the people, have the power. We just have to take it back. Yeah,
and we can. So the Mike, did you watch the what was Mike Lindell's symposium?
Oh, was it True the Vote or
no? True the Vote is another group. His what was it called?
I know what you're talking about. I haven't watched it yet, but I had a couple friends send it to me.
MAGA Beard and Beard Vet, who. Oh
wait, no, maybe that's
Beard Vet, who runs the Patriot Live TV, PatriotLive.com, PatriotTVLive.com site that we're on. We're at the conference. It was the election symposium. It was what was it called? I would know it any other time. But anyway, I guess you need to catch up on that. But they have a lot of results, or they have a lot of.
It wasn't the 2,000 mules, was it?
No, that was.
I know that they used a lot of that data too, but no.
Let me see. Jeez.
My friends from Defend Florida are going to message me and say, "We told you about this."
Mike Lindell Symposium.
I think I had 3 people send me the links to it too.
Cyber Symposium. Voter fraud.
Oh yeah, well that months ago, right?
Yes,
months ago. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I watched that one. No, there was one recently. I think last week. I think it was True the Vote.
Kelly says there's another symposium this weekend.
Oh, it was this weekend? No, I watched the one a couple months ago that he held with. I think Seth Keshel was there. Yep. A lot of veterans that have cyber backgrounds that talked about.
How'd you feel about that symposium? Were you on board with most of what was going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I was following it, and that's part of the reason why I'm so convicted about machines and the elections is they showed the data. And then you had, what was her name, in Colorado? Her office was raided.
Tina.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah, and they put her in jail for a while, didn't they?
I think so, yeah. Like when you're silencing like normal people, when I say normal, I mean, she was just doing her job. She's an American that cares about this country. When you're silencing them and going after them and threatening them, that's a problem. And it also shows you that we're onto something.
Right. Kelly said go to Lindell TV. But
okay.
So yeah, but Seth Keshel, he's the guy with the trends, right? With the how everything is trended over.
I have a friend that is friends with Seth, and that helped do get that data in Santa Rosa County and Escambia County. So, and I've talked about this at the Republican Executive Committee. Is I know the people doing the data and helping Seth Keshel with it.
Peters.
And he actually, my friend might be down here in a month, and I'm going to try and get him to speak on the data and what he did to uncover that data and why it is very telling about fraud happening here in our district.
Yeah, that I would love that. Well, you know what? So tell me this. I feel like that I'm in for a little bit of a battle when I get joined in the executive committee, because I'm pretty I speak my mind, and it seemed like there was a lot of there was a guy there and standing in the back with the glasses, who was the part of the Escambia County, I don't know, election integrity committee.
Yeah. Well, I will say you're not alone. And that's what I was talking about. Like even in the Republican Party, you can see there's a divide. And you saw it at the Republican Executive Committee. You have the members who are tired of the status quo and they're getting fired up. They're America first. And change in any level is scary. People are afraid of change, but change is what is needed in the Republican Party.
I agree. Absolutely. There's so much swamp in there's so many swamp creatures in the Republican Party. It's not funny.
Yep.
And I never thought Dan Crenshaw was going to be a guy that I'd like to slam up into the concrete wall, but he is now.
Yeah, I followed his campaign. I remember actually I was at Squadron Office in school, and I had messaged his team because we got to do these interviews on leadership, and I wanted to interview him, and it didn't work out. But I followed his campaign at the very beginning, and that's what I'm saying. Like these candidates and these representatives who give you lip service, they tell you what you want to hear, and then they get in there, and I don't know what happens. It's disappointing.
Do you think that the machines need to go?
Yes. I also think that if we keep the machines, then we have to have a way to do a hand paper ballot recount. So if machines, if people in Tallahassee, if the representatives say we're not going to get rid of machines completely, then we need to have basically that fail safe where we say, okay, if we're going to keep the machines, then we need to do, a secondary audit that's not a machine audit where it's hand counted with the paper ballots.
Right. The machines.
There's a lot of things that need to change with our election laws, and we do have people in Escambia and Santa Rosa County that are coming up with changes they would like to see made. And I've been working with those people. I've actually met with both supervisors of elections, and I will say one of them has given me some suggestions on things that they would like to see changed to allow them to make their jobs easier, but also more secure.
Awesome. Is your district that you're running for, does that encompass part of Santa Rosa?
Yes, it does. The redistricting.
Is that new? Yeah, that's new, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
It's interesting because we have two counties.
Are you are there polls out there for your race?
I don't know. Somebody else asked me this. I try not to pay attention to polls.
Right, you said
to be
that
honest.
earlier.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's any polling out there.
Okay.
I have received a lot of messages from people saying that they love what I stand for and they're going to be voting for me. And then a lot of military friends who had no idea because military members can't campaign, and then they see my name on the ballot and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were running. I'm going to vote for you.
Awesome. That's awesome. We're on board. We're the same on election integrity, medical freedom, and no mandates. You lost your career because of the
Yes.
mandates in the military.
Yes.
So that
And
person that said that
it's
about
so
Florida
far beyond that. It's also the fact, this was the first indication, it was the fact that the civilian population was being mandated from the government to do this. And as an officer whose oath is to the Constitution and whose responsibility it is to protect the American people, when you see a government implementing an unlawful mandate on the civilian population, officers, military members, we have an obligation to speak up and to say, this is not what we signed up for. We signed up to protect the American people. And so there were people here in the Panhandle that lost their jobs in the hospitals that are currently suing, their hospitals because they lost their jobs over these mandates. So it's not just the military; the civilian population was being impacted as well.
That statement that person made that they kept mask mandates and vaccine mandates out of Florida isn't entirely true, because a lot of people,
no, it is not.
A lot of people lost their jobs.
Yes, and the masks are still being implemented in many places in Escambia and Santa Rosa County.
Are they
and
really?
I have heard, yes. Well, in hospitals for sure.
Yeah,
and in
that's
some
true.
businesses, I have friends that message me, and I will say, as a Florida representative, if those institutions and organizations are getting funding from the state, they need to abide by state law. So if they are enforcing mask mandates and they're getting funding from the state of Florida, they need to be abiding by Florida law. And if they're not, then they need to be investigated or they need to be defunded.
Agreed.
Or at least not receive funding by the state.
Agreed.
There are ways that representatives can, right? Governor DeSantis did this with the school boards. When I think there was that one school board that said, oh no, we're not going to abide by this CRT stuff that Governor DeSantis is implementing. So what did he do? He threatened their funding, and they said, okay, we're going to abide by Florida law. That's what needs to happen in every single institution that is not going to abide by Florida law. We threaten their funding.
And speaking of that, as far as, enforcing that kind of stuff, that's another election that's critical, that we keep Ashley Moody in place as well. Mm-hmm. As the Attorney General, because that Ulfelder is a bigger clown, maybe a bigger clown than Nikki's Fried.
Yep, and actually Ashley Moody spoke today on election integrity as well. So that his whole office, Governor DeSantis' office, they're doing some great things. They're listening to the people. And in fact, I know in October of last year, Governor DeSantis said we're not going to audit 2020. And even today, he came out and said, look, we did have the most secure elections we've ever had in Florida, but that doesn't mean that they were 100%, fraud free. And he's listening to the people. He's looking at the data that Defend Florida is presenting him with, and they're doing something about it with this, election integrity task force that they've created.
Awesome. Defend Florida. I got to check that out.
Yeah, they're doing great work. And in Broward County, it was actually a candidate in Broward County. It was her and her volunteers that found the discrepancies in Broward County, reported them up to Defend Florida, and Defend Florida is the one who got that documentation to the governor's office, because she was going door to door and trying to get people's votes, saying like, please vote for me. And they said, oh, well, you're not in my district. And she said, yes, I am. Come to find out, they were receiving the wrong ballots. They were receiving ballots in the wrong district. And so that is how all of this came about. Is Defend Florida is doing such amazing work, and it's people, it's everyday people that are doing it.
You can get involved and you can make a difference.
Yes.
What was I going to ask you? I forgot. It was a little bit off the subject. I don't know. Next point. You're pro-life.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm 100% pro-life. I'm Catholic. Yep.
I'm pro-life. That's my stance. That's it. Okay, I have a question for you, okay?
Yep.
I'm pro-life.
Mm-hmm.
Partially, I feel like I don't need the government to legislate my morality.
Right.
But I do think there needs to be laws in place for this. Well, how do if this is my I guess, man, takes me forever to ask a question. If, let's just say, the heartbeat bill. A lot of
Right,
people
we don't
don't
have a
like
heartbeat
it. But if every state, let's just say if the state would agree on the heartbeat bill, or every state would agree on the heartbeat bill, would you agree to that, and would you quit fighting about that as far as government goes, and leave the rest of the fight to the citizenry, to the churches and activists for life?
I would support the heartbeat bill, but I would also continue to push further. I am 100% pro-life. I am part of those organizations like liveaction.org. And I think, saying that it's activists, it's we the people. It's people that understand.
I worded that poorly, because activist is a bad word, but really. But leaving it to we the people.
This is life that we're talking about. We can't legalize murder. And if you found an organism on a different planet, you would call that life.
Yeah.
So when you have life in the womb of a mother and you're telling people that that's just a clump of cells, that's disingenuous and it's untruthful. And I think we need to humanize, conception. I mean, liveaction.org, if you've seen any of their videos, it is heartbreaking. And we were talking about evil before, right? Like, if the worst thing you can think of, the most despicable thing, people want to turn, they don't want to think about that stuff because it breaks our hearts, right?
Right.
Well, that's exactly what live action is showing us, that this is evil. Like, dismembering a human being by crunching their skulls and tearing them apart limb by limb. That is what abortion is.
Right.
And people are scared to see that side of it, but that is what is happening. You are dismembering a human being, tearing them limb from limb, crunching their skulls, and taking them out with like scalpels. In people, the left is very good about using certain words to make them seem more extreme or not as extreme as they actually are, right? That's why they call it abortion. And I say we need to call it murder, because it is. And there's this whole, disinformation campaign saying, oh, well, what about if the mother's life is in danger? Okay, there's no medical reason for an abortion. I think it's 96% of biologists agree that life begins at conception. And liveaction.org has a ton of resources on, medical procedures for it's called preterm birth, in ectopic pregnancies. That does not mean it's an abortion. Miscarriage is not an abortion.
They use that thing so evilly, that ectopic, pregnancy crap. I mean, it's a serious thing, but it's not an abortion. And it's not.
And they're classifying miscarriages as an abortion. That is not a miscarriage. Is not an abortion.
Yeah, they're lying.
And I understand why they're doing it, right? Because they want to emotionalize, they want to sensationalize this topic, because they know that if they can emotionalize it, then they can convince voters that the right, the conservatives who are pro-life, they're the crazy ones, without having to actually look at the reality of what abortion is. And, those videos of babies being dismembered, and they can just emotionalize it so that way they don't have to see the reality.
Right. Well, I'm a firm believer that most of what the big topics that we fight on when it comes to murdering the babies, the pedophilia that I believe is going on, that's rampant.
Yes. Human trafficking. I mean, you look at the border security. And they talk about how, we need illegal immigration, like all immigration come through our border. It is the most vulnerable that is being exploited. It is human trafficking. It is child trafficking. It is child exploitation that is happening across our border. When you say, let all these immigrants through our border, it's exploiting the most vulnerable.
Agree. And yes, it is. And people don't want to see it because they don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe it's true.
Right.
And do you remember we played it on the show once. I can't remember her name. She's from Florida. Is it live? Is she live action? Maybe. She was testifying before Congress, I believe, and Rankin, that idiot from
Lila Rose. She's live action.
What's her name?
Lila Rose.
Not sure if that was her or not. But he said, well, you've passed this heartbeat bill that, and it doesn't take into consideration the life of the mother or blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, did you vote for it if it did?
Oh, yes.
And he's
That
like,
epic. Yep.
Yeah,
That was epic.
Yeah. And then they had the gangster, like they had the sunglasses go on.
Yeah. But it's truth. I mean, when you speak from a place of truth, you can't go wrong because you're speaking your heart and you're speaking, your conviction. And look, God wins in the end. And like I said, this is a spiritual war going on in our country. So I'm 100% pro-life, and I'm not going to wane on that topic because I know that it's evil. Abortion is evil at any stage, and I know that life begins at conception. And if we can accept even just a little bit of evil, then what is going to prevent us from continuing to accept more and more evil?
I agree with you. I'm trying to figure out a way to get that done. And I feel like I think that 80 to 90% of us, of we the people, so that includes everybody from both parties in the public, in the we the people, not the politicians, have 80 to 90% of the same values.
I do too.
And the abortion thing creates the largest chasm, gap, division between us.
Well, yeah, when you look at abortion, I think this is the way to also, put a different perspective on it is the intent is a racist intent. Abortion, Roe v. Wade, it was intended to eradicate the black population.
Right.
I think that is something that the left tries to get away from, right? They try and paint it as, what do they call it? Pro-choice. They call it like women's rights. Right. Because they don't like being associated with the truth of it. And the truth of it is it was intended to eradicate the black population.
Right.
And there's been lies told that this is, for women's health. It is never necessary to abort a child for the health of the mother. Like, that is not women's health. And if you look at these abortion clinics, the majority of their procedures it's not for women's health. And so I think we need to look at the root of the issue. Yep. It's mass genocide. This is the largest genocide ever, is aborting our most vulnerable, our innocent children.
You know what? They refused. I'm like, they're like, women's rights. And I'm okay. Yes. What about the baby's rights?
Exactly.
What about, who's protecting the baby?
Yep. And I've heard that, well, what about, in cases of rape or incest? Okay, those cases are rare, but also what we need to be doing as representatives is making it difficult for that to even happen. During COVID with the lockdowns, the sexual assaults on minors and sexual assaults increased because these abusive situations were allowed to prosper because children were not in their classrooms.
They were trapped with the abusers.
Exactly. And so the solution isn't to, abort a child. It's to hold these evil people accountable and to change the law or enforce the law so that these most vulnerable are not stuck in situations with their abusers.
Whew, there's a lot of work to be done, baby.
Hey guys,
Yes.
real quick, we're at the 8:25 mark, and so that means we've got 5 more minutes for the show on Patriot.
Okay.
But well, I want you to just mention how people can donate to your campaign, and you've got an email sign up on your website also, Jordan.
Yes. So Jordan L. Karr. That's Jordan L like Lima, KARR.com is my website. You can check out my views there. I would love your vote more than anything, and I would love if you just spread, my message out there to your friends and family who are District 2 voters that are Republicans and can vote for me in the primary. And just share my name because I am the underdog candidate. I've only been out of the military for 3.5 months, so I got into this late, but I am a fighter and I'm, getting out there, meeting people. But I need all the help I can get as far as name recognition. So I'd love your support and your vote, hopefully on Tuesday.
I'm going to put it in the messages. Todd, change her name on the screen to jordanlkarr.com.
Okay.
So, because the L is critical. Don't leave the L out.
Yeah.
I made that mistake earlier. So
Did
there,
it
I
take
just
you
put
strange?
it. What's that?
Did it take you some weird
No, there was nothing there.
offshoot?
There was nothing.
Okay.
There was.
Well, I've had your website up for basically the whole.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
the whole
You know what you
show,
do? That's
so.
you do. But it's jordanlkarr.com. And send her some money. Share, everybody out there, please share this tonight's show. Share the YouTube link. Share the Facebook link. Share it on every social media platform. Jordan, get your people going and sharing it. Hey Stan, by the way. Yeah. Do you know Stan McDaniels, right?
Yes.
Stan was sitting behind us on Monday.
Hey, Stan.
Stan was sitting behind us on Monday at the executive committee meeting, and he was he is Escambia County Board of Commissioners District 4
District 4
candidate.
Yes.
And Stan, I'll be voting for you, by the way, as well. And he just put in the chat, I'm voting for her. So
Yep.
I love it.
And speaking of Stan, that is something else that needs to change is our Second Amendment or our red flag laws. We need constitutional carry, and Stan took a stance on that. I think it was downtown, and he was arrested for it to show that, we the people have the power, and we have to take our country back, and constitutional rights are constitutional rights.
Right. I'm going to be, I really like Stan. He brings a fresh America First voice to the table.
Yep. And he, like me, he is, grassroots, very little funding, but he is pissed off like the rest of us and trying to do something about it.
And you know
and
what?
Also believes that there's a spiritual war happening in this country.
Very honest. Stan's very honest too. There were a couple of subjects that he wasn't up to date on. And he has made that clear that, while I may not know about it, I will learn about it, and I'm open to listening to everybody's input.
Yeah, and I think that is refreshing because you have these candidates who they say, oh, well, you need political experience to be successful in office. No, that is not what our founding fathers intended. We had farmers that were, part of our independence and signing the Declaration of Independence, and I think that it's time we get back to that. Before these politicians were politicians, they were inexperienced as well.
Right.
And the thing with Americans is we're very good at improvise, adapt, and overcome. Military background. You don't know something, you figure it out.
Another thing about Stan is, and Stan, by the way, I love your jacket. Stan is he's putting his what do I want to say? His dreams on hold. To run for this office, and to serve as a county commissioner.
Yes.
And I really do, and I really do like him, and I will. My friend that was with me, who lives on the beach, he wasn't able to make it to the candidate thing, but he's going to be voting for you, and I assume his wife will be also, and I believe you too, Stan. So. The more that people can hear you, I ought to do a special one this weekend or tomorrow or something with Stan so that we can get that shared around with everybody.
Yes.
But constitutional carry, absolutely. How do you feel about open carry?
So I am for it. I personally wouldn't do it just because I don't want people to know. But I mean, constitutional carry, I don't think that representatives can dictate whether or not somebody should open carry or not. And I think that's what Stan was arrested for, because he was open carrying.
I love it. So some people think that I had a conversation this weekend about open carry, and there's a lot of people think that it could lead to more confrontations and people using firearms when they shouldn't.
Well, I mean, we have an amazing governor who did the stand your ground laws. Look, Floridians were patriots, were conservatives. People who purchase firearms here in Florida, they know how to use them.
Right.
And these criminals, they find a way to access firearms no matter what, and they're going to be deterred by somebody who looks tough and carrying, and they can see your firearm,
right?
And they probably know that you're trained to use it. So I think that the best deterrence is to have a law-abiding citizen with a gun.
You know what? Yes, agreed. And well, where do all the shootings happen?
Gun-free zones.
Exactly. So just 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
You know what else Governor DeSantis said today was he was calling for former military people, the ex-military people, to get into the teaching profession and become teachers in our schools and such.
Yep.
And I thought that's genius.
Mm-hmm.
We need more. We need more. He and Carrie Lake. Carrie Lake. I believe she'll win that. Don't you?
Oh yeah. I mean, unless they cheat and try and steal it.
That Maricopa.
I mean, they
County,
will try and steal it, but unless they're successful at it.
Well, they weren't successful with. I can't remember the name now because I've written her off since that Tuesday night when it's over, who she was running against. But they were trying.
Yeah.
Maricopa County They took them. It was a shit show.
Yeah.
In that primary, and I'm like, after 2020, really?
Yeah.
So, constitutional carry and open carry, good. Me too. What's your national security and law enforcement? I guess that's the border and.
Yeah. So state guard, I think the cap right now is like 400 members. The Governor DeSantis.
National Guard? I mean the state.
No, the state guard. Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of my military friends I think Stan also applied actually, are interested in joining because there's no vaccine mandates. And we still want to continue to serve the state and serve our country. And then national security, you have, I think it was Escambia County has the largest fentanyl overdoses in the entire state of Florida. And we have drugs coming across our border, coming through, our state borders into Florida, the Northwest Florida. So we absolutely have an obligation to protect our border.
Awesome.
Just as Americans, it's not about like being Floridian, but I was talking to one of my friends today that said, we, the people, need to just go and secure our border ourselves. Like, we're not going to wait on the National Guard. We're not going to wait on the federal government to do it. We need to go down there and secure our border.
Yeah. What's funny is I always say this, I go, Americans think they hate Trump. They let me be president for a term. You'll really hate somebody.
They'll say Trump who?
Yeah, they'll be like, oh, now we got Faja derangements. Stan just said Carrie Lake is going to give DeSantis a run for America's governor. It's going to be epic seeing both of them trying to outdo each other. I'm also a fan of Christy Nome. Up in South Dakota.
I think she had some controversial things with the transgender bill that I wasn't supportive of. I'll have to look more into that.
They finally got it passed, and I agree. And Tucker grilled her, and I was on her side because I thought she made it clear that she said it didn't go far enough. She goes, I sent it back so they could take a look at it because I believe it leaves us open to litigation by the NCAA and other bodies.
Okay, I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, so, that was Tucker, and that was back when that first happened. He was he ripped her up, and I was
I mean, Tucker,
I was yelling at the
Tucker's
TV. I'm like,
awesome.
"You're wrong, Tucker. You're wrong, dude." So that's just
Yeah.
but I'm a fan of hers too. So,
Yeah.
but if we, there's by the way, there's a I can't remember it. What I want to say.
Something about Tucker?
No, about what's it called when enough governors from the states get together?
The
Convention?
Yeah.
Are you talking
Constitutional
about?
Convention.
Oh, yeah.
There's also one of those groups in the local area, right?
Well, not Constitutional Convention, Convention of States.
Convention of
Yeah.
States.
There's
Lord.
only ever been one Constitutional Convention, and I think that's where some of the language,
Yeah, Convention
some
of
people are
States.
get,
My bad. I sound like
because
a dummy now.
well, when you hear Constitutional Convention, that's where people start to think, okay, they're going to completely change, like get rid of our Constitution and change, our country, and that's dangerous. I mean, there's misinformation all over the place, and yeah.
So here's my last question for you. I know you want to talk forever. I'd let you to, but I'll let you go. You probably need to get some sleep because you're going to get back on your feet tomorrow morning. But
yeah, well, my dogs have been whining for like an hour.
You have more than one. You have a beautiful golden in your picture on your website.
I have 2 Goldens. Only one is in the photo because the other one she's absolutely insane and could not sit still. And so we put her in the house for that photo.
Can you hear Todd laugh with such affection?
Yeah,
He's
I love
super
dogs.
dog lover. So one of the things that you have said about your campaign and about if you were elected is that through your state seat, you want to affect the nation as well through your state seat. Can you?
Yeah.
Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think people are already seeing the power of the states through Governor DeSantis. And I think that we in Florida know that it doesn't go far enough because we still have a lot of federal overreach happening in our state. And when we have a coalition of representatives, and I've already talked about how there's a coalition of candidates in the state of Florida that are America First, that we are united already. And when you have that coalition of representatives who are standing up and saying, we are not going to abide by this unconstitutional law, we're going to nullify this unconstitutional law, that we're going to nullify, this unlawful federal overreach. When Florida does that, it's going to set the stage for the rest of the country to do that. For people, citizen representation, for people to take their states back. And then, you look, I've talked about this before, but BlackRock owns everything, right?
Yep.
They are the owners of virtually everything in our country and in the world. And I think that part of being independent as a state and getting the federal government out of the state of Florida and out of all the states is to be economically independent, to do, state to state kind of partnerships, instead of being okay with the administration shipping our oil to China, our adversary, we make deals between states. And so I see Florida setting the example for the rest of the country.
Awesome.
And our coal. They're sending the coal over there too.
Yeah, they're sending, it's unconstitutional, right? When you're giving money and giving our resources to our adversaries, that is treasonous.
It's unconscionable too.
We have American suffering, like the baby formula shortage. Like we have American suffering, and they were giving it over to across the border to the illegal immigrants.
Right, and nobody wants to take note of the fact that we've had this mysterious deaths of all these of all this cattle. We have the burning of all these food processing plants.
You have China buying up farmland. How is that legal? It's not legal, but what is being done about it? And I've talked about this before with other candidates. But Nancy Pelosi, she's bought real estate in Florida, so she's destroying her state that she represents, implementing policy that is oppressive to Americans. But she wants to move to the free state of Florida and buy real estate here and live off of the flourishing policies that we have in the state of Florida.
Of course
she needs to be investigated. She needs to be investigated. She should not be allowed to come to our state and flourish off our policies after destroying her own state and oppressing the American people.
As you know, this trickles. This is a trickle down of the whole. Socialism is not for the is for the people, not the socialists. And so, by that same line of thinking, her policies are for us, not for her. She doesn't want to abide by anything that she.
I mean, all the insider training, she needs to be investigated.
Yep.
I mean, we the people have to find a way to investigate her. It's not just her. I mean, the whole corrupt, representation up in DC. I mean, they're all colluding. Big Pharma. I mean, that's why so many representatives. There are representatives that are listening to us and hearing, military members and the civilians that are being, impacted by these vaccine mandates. But look into their stocks. The representatives who are making money off of Big Pharma. That is why they are not representing the people when it comes to these mandates. They need to be held accountable.
How many years did Liz Cheney serve? 6? 4 or 6? She's gone from 7 million to 44 million.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. No wonder people are running for Congress, right? They're like, ooh, I go in with a 6-figure salary and I get retirement for life and I come out millionaire. Sure.
The Obamas they had a net worth of about $1 million.
That's why we need term limits and to get rid of the 17th Amendment.
100% we need term limits.
What about the guillotine? Jordan's like, get me away from this guy now.
Look, I want to do things legally. Investigations are a must.
Yes, agreed. Yes, but you know what? Somebody asked me the other day, the same person that I was saying that said he's a moderate, and I'd say he's more left, but and said that Lauren was crazy because he works in the media he has worked in the media in the past.
I'm sure I'm crazy to him as well.
In sports. I haven't
I mean,
heard
I am
anybody.
crazy because
I'll fight for
who
you,
would walk
Jordan.
away?
They
Who would walk away from a job where they had, retirement in 10 years and I was making good money. Who would walk away from that because of a vaccine, right? So that's crazy. That's ludicrous to do something like that.
Well, people don't believe what, maybe, I don't know if you believe or not. I assume that we are kind of on the same page here, though. But what good is retirement if you are not around to spend it?
Right. Well, and I didn't want to be a slave to the system anymore. And I know I've actually talked with other voters about this. We're still part of the system with running for office. But like I say, I want to try and do everything possible to try and save this country because I don't want to get to a point where we look around and we say, could we have done something more? Could we have done something to save this?
My son is struggles with the paying a lot of attention to politics because it makes him so angry.
Yeah, I get that.
And I'm like, man, but you still have to get involved and find a balance or somewhere where, what would Jesus do? He's like, how can I be like Jesus and be involved in politics? That's not his words. I'm saying that's a good analogy. How can I be like Jesus and be involved in politics? Because I'm so angry and I want to just start shredding people.
You remember Jesus flipped the table over when he saw the fraud that was being perpetrated on the people.
I actually told
righteous
him
anger. Yeah, righteous anger is good. You just have to keep God at the center and focus on truth and what's right. You can't let the system corrupt you. We, the people, and that's why it's not about me as an individual. It's about the people. We have to do it collectively.
Right. And you know what? I said same thing to Jared. I brought that same exact thing up. I'm like, even Jesus lost it in the temple when the tax collectors were ripping the people off.
And I think, this is a piece of advice that I've given people when I, was with another group. Is find the one thing you're passionate about, the one thing that pisses you off so much that you just have to get involved. For me, it's always been veterans issues. For me, it's always been veterans issues. And so that is my driver for a lot of things. And, I used to hear from moms who were pissed off about the school board. And I said, okay, that is your issue. That is what you're passionate about. Then you do everything you can to focus on that one issue, because we're not going to be able to, as humans, our capacity to multitask is non-existent, or at least multitask 100%, to each task is non-existent. So if you can find that one thing you're passionate about, the one thing that you care so much about, just pour your energy into that. Find other people that are just as passionate as you about that topic, and start, like, that's how Moms for Liberty started.
Yep. I was just going to say, Tiffany.
Yep.
Stan said, he said Jesus would be yelling, and then he said, there's a lot of red letters with exclamation points. And for those of you who don't read your Bible, red letters are when Jesus speaks. So, and that's maybe the extent of my theological, scholarly theological opinion.
You'll have to move from sports to politics to now theology.
Theology, yeah. Yeah. Or maybe not. Jordan, absolute pleasure, and I'm glad we got to do this.
Thank you. I am as well. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. People think I say this too easily or whatever, but love you, and I mean it. I'm excited.
Thank you.
I'm excited about your candidacy and the election, and let me know what you need me to do between now and Tuesday, if I can help. If you want me to
contact your friends that are District 2 voters and Republicans and say, vote for this girl. Okay. She listens to the people. She's one of us.
If everybody would like the page, like the video, share the video, please. Put it on your page. Let people see it. Make a note that it's Jordan. Put her website in your comment, jordanlkarr.com, so we can donate. I'll go home and donate tonight. Todd's going to donate too. Mm-hmm. 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 And I'm one of these people who I hate when representatives or candidates ask for donations. So I mean it when I say, like, just getting my name out there and your vote means more to me than any donation ever will. That's absolutely, that's the truth, right? Because it's the one thing that, $1 million is no good if nobody votes for you. So
right.
It's the one thing that hopefully can't be bought.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
We'll at least criminalize it here in the state of Florida. So
here I'm going to share with you that you can probably see it if you can see the chat. I don't know if you can, but I'm going to share with you the last thing to come through the chat just now. Two of them now. There's another one. Kelly in Indiana said, Jordan, you're a breath of fresh air. I would vote for you if I could. And Kim in Colorado said, I would vote for you. So, and both of those have exclamation marks as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night. Have a great day tomorrow. I'll help get the word out tonight, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Awesome.
And we'll get some voters going. Stan, same for you. We'll get the word out for you as well. But everybody, I want to thank you for tuning in tonight, and Jordan for sharing your story and your platform, and for your service. Thank you. Your family's service. Thank you. And thank you for loving the United States of America.
Thank you. And thanks for having Patriots on your channel to talk about controversial topics and politics.
Right on. Everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. I know we went over by about 20 minutes, so it's on YouTube or Facebook. If PatriotTVLive.com went off the air for you, check it out there. And we'll see you next week, same time, same bat channel. Have a great weekend.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thanks. Take care.